Guess what? It's my turn.
I'm so grateful.
Oh, are you? Well, we'll see about that one. We will definitely see it. It is so nice to see everyone back in church today. It's been a busy week for some. It's been a very challenging week for most, but we're here. I'm happy to see everyone. I saw two cousins meet yesterday. Had a good time. Played in my office. It's amazing about cousins. I've never seen cousins that didn't get along. I mean, there's probably some out there, I understand, but you don't see it very often. I don't know if it's because they don't see each other very often or what it is, but they always get along. They play well. Always have a good time, or at least that's the memories I had of my cousins. And no, we didn't have any kissing cousins or anything like that. So anybody wants to insert a joke, we can't. Whenever Angel and I first got married, we hadn't been in our marriage but maybe 2.5, 3 years, and I started working for a company called McCoy's. And they used to be a lot popular than they are now. But at that time, they had a store in Beaumont. They had one in Orange, and I think they had one in Port Arthur. I think the only one that they have now that's left in this area is Orange. But anyways, it was a great company, what I remember of it. And I remember I hadn't been working for them not even a year, and they came out and said, hey, if you're married and you want to participate, we're very into families. So what we want to do is send you to a seminar or camp. Back then they called it a marriage camp, but I guess you would call it modern day terms, marriage seminar. And of course, you know, we had just gotten married not too long, and we decided that we wanted to go with a couple that I worked with also. So we loaded up the van and we went over to San Antonio. Now granted, we got two couples here, all fairly new in marriage. We thought we knew everything, but we didn't. So you would think that two couples together, traveling, same age, same length of marriage and everything like that, we would get along. And for the most part, we did. Except when we hit San Antonio. Because back then, I'm sure, just like now, it's just like Houston, construction everywhere. And back then, you didn't have a phone that had a GPS. Your vehicles probably didn't have GPS unless you had a really expensive one. And we didn't. We had a Dodge minivan, whatever model that was. So we didn't have GPS. So you're going through San Antonio from Silsbee, and you get into this road construction. And back then, you know, I don't know if these kids have ever seen it. I don't know if Sarah's ever seen it. But we used to have this thing. It was made out of paper, and it had a bunch of lines on it. And it would get you from point A to point B. All right? And even back then, women didn't know how to read road maps. That's what it was called, road maps. Yeah, okay. So Angel is over there sitting in the passenger side, and she is giving me directions in the midst of chaos, in the middle of rush hour in San Antonio. So, needless to say, as calm as I am, and as calm as Miss Angel is, we found it in front of the other couple that we were not so calm. I was frustrated. She was frustrated at me for being frustrated at her. So here we are. We're getting a big old fight. And I say big old fight. I mean, it wasn't, you know, slapping and hitting and all that. It was just, you know, especially early on in your marriage when y'all are fighting. Okay? Y'all aren't getting along. You frustrated her. She's frustrated you. And there's not going to be anything within the next hour or two that's going to make it better. So the best thing to do is just shut up and go on. Stop and ask for directions. Typical man didn't do that. Typical man didn't shut up. Just made a worse situation even worse. And here we are going to a Christian marriage camp seminar. All right. And this just put the nail in the coffin. We absolutely needed it. Thought we had a good marriage. But if you fight over a stupid road map in the midst of construction, I was blaming all this on Angel, and she had absolutely nothing to do with it. I mean, even if I was reading the map, I would have messed that up. Okay? Even if we had GPS, I probably still would have messed it up. Okay? That's how bad it was in this construction. But let's go ahead and go. All right, so I don't know if you've ever been to a marriage seminar, but most of the time, it's about the women. It's about the wives. Okay? But this particular seminar was kind of different. At least it was the first day. I remember getting there, and me and James, that's the other guy that went with me, and Angel, and I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, but anyways, it was his wife and everything like that. And and I remember looking at James. I said, James, this is going to be a long seminar. This is going to be a very long weekend. I know we get our food paid for. I know we get a nice room and a nice hotel and everything. But it's going to be a male-bashing seminar. All of these, that's all it is. All right? Whether it's a male speaker or a female speaker, the guy's always the reason the marriage doesn't last. Or that's the reason the marriage isn't as good as it can be. But this speaker came out and supposedly said this. And I wrote it down because I didn't want to mess it up. It says, today is not going to be, let's beat up the man for not being a woman. Okay, now listen to that. Let's not beat up the man for not being a woman. In a lot of these seminars, that's exactly what it is. It's focused on the women, their wants, and everything like that. But let's just face it, men are different. Okay? We think different, we act different, we respond differently. Women are so complex, so complicated. Just when you think you've got it figured out, they take another breath. There's no doubt about it. So I remember him standing up there on this huge platform, and he says, women, describe your perfect man. What's your ideal man? He held his breath. We broke off into classes, and that's whenever we were able to hear the answers. And all these answers came from women want to communicate. Women want to tell you what they expect. And we probably went through 30 women in their explanation of a perfect man. What is their ideal man? And us guys are in there, and we're listening to all this, and all of us are just looking at each other. Is that you? Because it certainly isn't me. And then and the guy stands up and says, okay, we heard what the ideal man for a woman is. But did you notice that every woman that stood up and gave an example of the perfect man or their ideal man, all they did was just give an example of another woman? None of those definitions were even close to any of the guys, any of the husbands in that room. And we kind of laughed because, you know what, we realized what you said, it's not going to be a male-bashing seminar. All right? Now, this is the first day. Now, trust me, they went on, and I'm only covering the guy's side today. They went on and covered the women, and they did an excellent job for the women. Even us guys understood at that point. But he was making it a point that women sometimes expect men to be women. And we're not. We're not wired that way. God didn't create us that way. Matter of fact, we're just men. We're not sick, we're not perverted, we're not twisted, and we're certainly not broken. Okay? Now, we hear that all the time. We're not in touch with our feelings. You don't know how to talk. You always want to solve the problems. You never want to listen. Listen. We're not sick, we're not perverted, we're not twisted, and we're not broken. We're man, and that's the way God made us, and He made it for a reason. And we need women to understand us. Women are much more complicated than man. There's no doubt about that. I don't think there's a woman in here or a woman that's ever been born that did not think, yes, we're deeper. We're more involved. We're more mature than these men. So true. Guys aren't denying that. Listen, women, don't get in a fight with us over that. We're not denying that. Okay? We are saying, you're right. All right? We're simple. We're easy. We've got tunnel vision on what we want and what we need. And it's simple. It's 3 things. No need for me to mention it. You women, you wives, y'all know what it is. So how men and women think? Of course they think differently. So why is it so important that men and women think differently? Because men and women are very quick to make into heart problems. Listen to me, heart problems that are essentially head problems. And vice versa. So a woman can turn something that they feel in their heart into a head problem. And a man can turn it from a head problem into a heart problem. It's kind of complicated, but trust me, you will get it at the end of this sermon. Not so much today, because this is going to go on for a couple of weeks. Because I think it's very important nowadays, because let's just face it, men as we know man to be are not man. God, I'm going to get in trouble for that. Women are more man today than they've ever been. It's in the Bible. God directs a man how he is supposed to run his household. And when you vary from that, what's going to happen? You're going to mess everything up. Now we've got man that wants to be wives, and we got wives that wants to be man. And the roles are just being reversed. And then we're asking ourselves, why are our kids so confused? Why do our kids not know if they want to be a woman or a man? Whether they want to go to a girl's bathroom or a boy's bathroom? Why do they want to marry the same sex? Well, all the households are messing up. We have a guidance, we have a guideline, but we're not following it. So I kind of want to stay on point here. A man thinks a certain way, and a woman just thinks. Now listen to that. A man thinks a certain way, but all a woman does is think. And sometimes they think there's something wrong with his heart. No, it's in his head. I do have a Bible verse that will show you how to have the perfect marriage. I wouldn't say, let me rephrase that. I have a Bible verse that will I got to be right, because we've got men and women here, and he's taping this, and I can get in a lot of trouble. Not just by y'all, because y'all know me. I got a good heart. Okay? So let's get this right. I do have a Bible verse that I would like to show you, and for you to follow the advice of this Bible verse. And if you do follow the advice of this Bible verse, you will never, ever have a problem in a marriage. You want to hear the verse? Okay, how many of y'all are married? 1, 2. Okay. Some of y'all have been married. Some of you may even one day be married. But this is the way to have perfect marriage. You'll find it in 1 Corinthians 7th chapter, verse 1. And the latter part of it says, it is good for a man not to marry. It is good for a man not to marry. In 1 Corinthians, same chapter, but in verse 28 later on, it says, yet those who marry will have trouble, special challenges in their life, and I'm trying to spare you that. Now, we've all seen marriages, relationships, they had no business getting married. And a lot of times, and I would probably venture to say probably 9 out of 10, it's the man. Not mature, not ready. She was willing to sit down and listen to the preacher counsel them. He was just looking for a couple of donuts, cup of coffee, do a checklist. I've been to counseling. I'm ready to get married. Ready to provide for my family. Ready to do all of this. He just wanted it over. But he missed the counseling. He missed what he was saying and what needed to be said. Women are more than willing to realize that, hey, you know what? This man, Lord, that you gave me is not perfect. They're willing to do that until the first fight. And I don't know about you. There is 2 memories women have. Pre-marriage, post-marriage. The memory that they have before marriage is sort of like what men have all the time. Selective. They remember the good stuff. They don't remember the bad stuff. Because they know once I get him married and I put a ring on his finger, everything's going to be okay. But then you have the first fight. Now a different memory kicks in for women. One that they will never forget. Never. Angel could tell you everything in great detail of our first, second, third, fourth, and probably every fight we've had since we've been married. I'm sure Sis can, I'm sure Sister Deborah can, I'm sure a lot of you can. But let me tell you, men aren't that way. Okay? So just give us a free pass in here. You remember in great details how bad he messed up. We don't even remember. And however mad you get, whatever you try to represent what happened that night, we don't remember. So let's just move on. Remember, God made us. All right? God made you. Those scriptures that I just read, that it's good for a man not to marry, and then it says, but if you do get married, you're going to have troubles. Plain and simple. If you decide to get married, you're going to have troubles. I don't know about you, but I've done probably over 25, 30 weddings in my life. Not one time did I ever read these scriptures in the wedding. They're just not very popular. How many preachers have ever said in the counseling, hey, it's better for you not to get married? I'm going to be honest with you, there's been several counseling sessions where I wish I would have said that, and I should have said it, but I didn't. And there's probably about just as many women today Wish I would have said it. But you do know what kind of relationship they have at that moment. What you don't know, but the Holy Spirit does, is what this relationship is going to look like 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 5 years down the road. Proverbs 14, verse 4, out of the American Standard Bible says, "Where no ox are, the manger is clean." Now listen to that. Where no ox are, the manger is clean. Doesn't take a great minister to reveal what this means. It's just simply saying, if you have an ox in your stable, you're going to have poo in it. All right? It's going to stink. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be a problem. But if you don't want poo, don't put an ox in your stable. Simple, I understand. Not very favorable to preach. But then the second part says, "But much increase is by the strength of the ox." You're going to have both. You're going to have the strength of the ox, and it's going to produce a lot for you. But with that comes the mess, the poo. You can't have one without the other. No way. Never seen a marriage that didn't have both. Never seen a problem marriage that didn't have both. It's just the way you handle it, just the way you react. I don't know about you, but guys are like this. We're just empty. But when a woman looks at us, they see a table here, they see curtains here, they see carpet there, they see furniture, they see everything. They love that the room is empty at first, but then they want to start filling with their stuff. But this is a man's head. Leave it alone. Leave it empty. You're better off if it's empty. Trust me. The man's better off if it's empty. Now, when we talk about women, it's going to be totally different. All right? Okay? It's going to be totally different. But you can't say that you can have one without the other. You're going to have poo in your marriage. No way around it. The key is getting the proper positive to poo ratio. Okay? There's actually a mathematical equation for this. All right? But you've got to get the proper ratio for poo in your marriage. Okay? No doubt about it. So get that. I don't know how you do it, but I don't know. In our marriage, Angel has now left me alone. She quit trying to change me. With her being educated, well-spoken, smart, I sometimes say things that's just not proper English. I'm from Southeast Texas, country boy. I don't do it on purpose. It's just, I just been around so many people in construction and everything like that. Sometimes it overshadows your own education. All right? And sometimes the ain't word comes out, or I misspeak a word or something like that. And you know what I mean. All right? It's just whether or not you want to embarrass me or correct me. Totally up to you. I'm not offended. But Angel has completely quit that. She's found the proper positive ratio for poo in a loving relationship. But at that marriage camp that we went to, I remember going out that night for dinner, just the four of us, because that's what the counselors and the speaker said. Hey, tonight, just take your wife and go have a nice romantic dinner. I remember it was a beautiful restaurant. I don't know, we had shrimp or fish or something like that. But it was very good and everything like that. But now, after you eat, there's a bad thing that happens to all men. The conversation. Not the check. We want the check. Give me the check, let me pay, let's go. We'll go lay out by the pool, go have some fun, whatever. But no. These fancy restaurants, especially during this convention or this seminar, it's like they knew, delay getting the check to the table. We want these people to communicate. And I don't know about you, but there seemed like a time of silence in the whole restaurant where it was time for people to communicate. And you would find some that was communicating and everything like that. But a lot of it was just quiet. Awkward quietness. After all, we're the ones that came over here. We paid the money for you to tell us how to communicate to each other. But we haven't gotten to that point. Okay, we did find out that women are different than men. All right? Men are simple. We're easy. We're simple. We're full of nothing. So therefore, our conversation, if it's not about sports or something simple or easy, most of it is full with nothing. And then all of a sudden it's like someone turned on the light switch. Women out there that just got finished eating waited for the man to start the conversation, and it didn't happen. Light came on, now everybody's talking over each other. One woman is trying to talk over another woman. It became so loud, and I could still hear back then. So you try to listen to these other conversations, and women are getting mad. You never want to communicate. Here we are at this marriage seminar, and da-da-da-da-da, and everything like that. And then it seems like everybody was fighting. Because the guys didn't have anything to say. Take inventory of your life. You women, how many times do you want to have a conversation with your man, your husband, your partner for life, and all he wants to do is just sit there, eat, watch TV, take a shower, and go to bed? Can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I love that. We're full of nothing. Y'all have got everything in your head, and you want to communicate it to us. We have nothing in our head, so we have nothing to communicate. We've dealt with things all day long. We're tired of dealing with it. We just want to come home to a beautiful woman, a great meal, and a hot shower. And that sounds great for the man. But we always forget that, you know what? The woman has a life too. All right? They need to communicate. They need to talk about it. They need to talk about their problems of the day. But again, us guys, we love to solve problems. You've all heard this before. So we start putting our 2 cents into this. When all we had to do all we had to do, man, is just use our nothing to our advantage and just shut up and listen. You don't even have to repeat what they said. All you have to do is just keep your eyes open, eyes focused on her. You can look straight through her. Now, this is not the advice I'm giving you, all right? I'm just telling you, this is how simple it could be. Just keep your mouth shut, don't solve the problem, and just listen. Like that YouTube thing that says, listen, Linda, listen. Husbands, listen. Listen, husband. Okay? That's it. All you have to do. All right, so this was just a small taste of what's coming in the next couple of weeks. All right? Maybe next week we'll finally get to women and their complex circuitry. But let me just set the table here. All right. You've got a box of empty Lego pieces. And that's men. Then you have a box full of millions of pieces of Lego. That's the woman. Okay? Let that sink in. This is what we're working with. This is exactly what God's working with because He made us this way. Okay? So as soon as I realize that I've got a box full of Legos, and as soon as you women realize I have a box of nothing, we can start building. Now, don't get me wrong. When I say empty, I'm not saying that we're just existing. We're not smart. We don't know how to solve problems. We don't know how to talk or anything like that. I'm just saying that our box doesn't have as many pieces as y'all's. And please understand that. It's not that we don't love you. It's not that we don't want to communicate. It's not that we don't understand you. It's just sometimes, and most of the time, we don't know how. And then most women will say, well, just listen to me. I will walk you through it. Trust me, I know me. I will walk you through it. Now, this will work for not only Christian, but non-Christian. Because we all know that there are happy marriages, there are successful, there are striving, growing relationships, and they're heathens. And I've seen Christian relationships and marriages that are struggling. Let's move beyond that. Let's see what the outcome could be. Because if all of us get a poo, I like this part. So in your marriage, all right, we already established that you got to have a a ratio of good and poo. All right? But if you get too much poo, then what does that tell you? You got a sick ox. So you got to get that ox healed. Or shoot him and get him out. But let's not go with that second one. Let's just work on getting them healed, okay? But here it is. But being married people are more healthier. This is scientific. This has nothing to do with being a Christian. This has nothing to do with being a heathen. This just pure goodness here. Married people are healthier, happier if you're doing it right in your marriage. They make more money. They have better love lives. Regardless of what the movies proclaim, let me tell you, all right, married people have a better love life. Because you're married and you're doing it God's way, God's plan. When you're not married and you're doing it the world's way, then you're headed for trouble. And they live longer. And for us men, if we're married, you live longer than women. Let me put it to you this way. If you're going 80 miles per hour around a curve that is only made for you to go 40 miles per hour, you're going to get hurt. So if you're in a marriage and the speed limit's 40, but you as a woman, us as men, we want to drive at 80, someone's going to get hurt. So take your time, get to know the terrain, get to know what the law tells you about what you're driving. I can imagine Sister Deborah. I'm hoping that when you took the helicopter ride, it was for recreational, it was for fun, it was by choice. All right. So that's a huge relief that it wasn't medical reasons or anything else. Okay. So if Sister Deborah, all right, gets up there in that helicopter and she decides to take the seatbelt off, all right, and they leave the door open, the chances of her falling out are pretty good. Let's ask Brother Bill. Brother Bill, you're an expert. Chances increase when you take the safety precautions off, is it not? God has put in a safety precaution. He's put that seatbelt on, all right? Because when things get rough, when things get uncomfortable, when you hit bad weather, you hit bad conditions, when things aren't smooth and you got turbulence everywhere, the seatbelt keeps you where you need to be. I don't know about you, but I'm never going to get in a helicopter and go freelance. I'm wearing my seatbelt. All right? Because there's a long fall from up there to down here. And it ain't the fall that's going to kill you. It's the sudden stop. Okay? Y'all stand. Okay, I don't talk about this behind the pulpit very often, but I've heard of it, never experienced it. I know we've had members that's experienced it, but I've never seen it firsthand. But I've seen someone that has shingles, and let me tell you, that looks pretty painful. All right? So I don't know if there's a shot or there's medicine or anything like that. But don't let it go rampant. Whatever you can do, do it. Because this person that had it, I think y'all know who I'm talking about. He's not a baby. All right? So y'all keep him in your prayers, okay? And anyone else that happens, I know we have another young lady that's in our church that catches it quite often. All right. Didn't get to see hers. I got to see his. And my goodness, that looks very painful. Okay? All right. So, in closing, Brother Tim, in closing, with your broke foot, I want to say one thing. Brother Bill, it's so good to have you back. I can't tell you how hard it is not to call you every 5 minutes or 3 times a day to check on you. But I also know that, you know what, people need time to process things, to deal with things, and I respect that. But just because we don't call and we don't check, y'all are always on our mind. Okay? Now, Sis does a pretty good job on keeping me updated, but, you know, it's my brother Bill here. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like Tim. If Tim's not joking, there's something wrong. All right? So, let's make this week a good week. Okay? It's kind of like our marriage, okay? You know poo is coming. All right? Just try to find the right ratio this week. All right? You're going to have it.
A bigger shovel.
Yeah, I'll get a bigger shovel. Go to Parker's. Help Brother John and his company out. Even go to McCoy's. Get you a bigger shovel. Get you a nicer wheelbarrow. Get one with those, you know, air-filled. Easier to roll. I say this jokingly, but honestly, I don't know about you, but days aren't getting easier. But I will tell you, days are getting shorter. They're going by so quickly nowadays. All right. So, yeah, you're in the midst of a battle. But it seems like with God, seems like He's just making things go faster. And it doesn't seem like you're beat up all the time.
Getting past it.
Yeah. Sister Jeanette, do me a huge favor. Will you dismiss us in prayer?
The Keel.